Hey, everybody. Thanks. And it's study session time, so go ahead. Anything goes, Q&A. Unmute yourself or type in.
And go ahead, Sandra, then Hyssop.
Hey, Sandra.
Hi, Greg. I need your help with a
Sure.
client I have.
Okay.
I have a client and a good friend who had, the last couple of months, has had chronic diarrhea. She has been tested for just about everything. They said everything was negative, but she still continues to have it. Her doctor suggested an old-fashioned remedy which worked pretty well for a couple of months, and that was just taking Pepto-Bismol for a couple of days, because he said she might have a low-grade infection in her intestine, and it seemed to work for about 3 or 4 weeks, and now it's come back. I have tried pranic healing on her. I did it a lot for a week. It seemed to help for a while, then it came back. I've tried
when you did pH, what did you do?
I'm sorry?
When you did the pH session, what did you do?
I basically just, well, I cleaned all her chakras, but concentrated on her navel, her solar plexus, and cleaned her intestines and her liver and her gallbladder. I tried to, clean it carefully.
Yeah, like with pH, first let's start with that, and then I'll walk you down the other things you can do.
Okay.
You put a lot of like medium blue, not even in the center, you just hit the whole lower abdominal cavity, just kind of keep going back and forth between like around the belly button down, but like the whole side, just like side to side, but like for probably 5 or 10 minutes. Like you'll energize it for a very long time with blue, like medium blue.
Medium blue. Okay.
Yeah. And so you have a couple options. So there can be different reasons that this can happen, and that it's been so chronic that she's had to use like things like Pepto-Bismol and stuff. The other thing that we don't really think about when it comes to chronic diarrhea is sometimes the diaphragm is very, very tight, and even though it's for respiration, it compresses some of the lymphatic vessels and basically allows the gut to become more toxic. And so I would do even a little bit of a respiratory treatment, but like kind of even go in under the diaphragm, the ribs, and really loosen up the diaphragm. Oils that would help loosen the diaphragm would be things like Hyssop or myrtle, Sitka, things like that, just like simple things. You don't have to go anything too crazy. But the issue usually when the digestive tract is not functioning properly, like something like this, is there's toxicity issues with lymphatic stagnation that's happening in the gut, and then also the autonomic nerves, which are the involuntary part of the nervous system, are not innervating the gut like they should, or they're not firing like they should, I should say. And so you have a couple things, and it's best to do it like in stages. So I'm going to give you some options. And so right off the bat, a lot of times I have people, like sometimes I start off with just galbanum, just like a little bit of galbanum, taken internally. Sometimes that can knock out the diarrhea, but actually one of the go-to things for diarrhea is actually cinnamon. And, we think of cinnamon as like, being very stimulating, which it is. But here what it's doing is it's stimulating proper like muscle movement and things in the gut. And so that usually will knock it out. But the thing that I would say, what's that?
I've been giving her cinnamon, and
that hasn't had a big impact.
Well, all these things work for a while. She puts in her coffee, and she occasionally, well, she says it's too hot to drink water, but
that makes me think that it's either that the nerves aren't innervating properly or the diaphragm's an issue. And so again, reinforcing the diaphragm thing. Then the second thing would be to use ANS support. It could be that you use tarragon in ANS or even rosemary verbena in ANS, but you need to like unwind the like what we'd call like a stress plagued digestive tract, and you're calming down some of the things that have been responding to the stress, but it starts to make the nerves like function better. And anytime you see chronic diarrhea, the issue is potentially that there is lack of tone in the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which would be reflected here in the vagus nerve. And so ANS does have tarragon in it, but tarragon is very like kind of balancing to the autonomic nervous system. So it will help bring tone to that. And the other thing that you could integrate into that is marjoram, which helps tone the vagus nerve and pulls the person out of kind of fight flight. It just basically means it just pulls it out of sympathetic activity and switches it back into parasympathetic activity. And so
Would that be internal? Would she take
I would
tarragon
have her take the tarragon internally, and I would have her apply the marjoram topically.
just to her belly area then?
Yeah, belly, wrist. Honestly, it doesn't really even matter.
Okay.
Like just as long as she gets it on her body.
Okay.
Because it will start toning the parasympathetic nervous system regardless of where you put it. It's just marjoram is going to do what marjoram does, and that's one of the things that it does. And so the other thing that you can do is don't do this with essential oils, but I would go to like Amazon or a normal health food store is probably not going to have this. I mean, they might, but get wormwood capsules. Don't take essential oil wormwood. It's too potent.
Yeah.
But the capsules, like have her take 2 or 3 capsules, like maybe twice a day, and this combination should knock it out. Like, I mean, just knock it out. And so the thing with wormwood is it will kind of tone the nerves, and there's this other like kind of like mesh set of nerves in the gut that is called the enteric nerves, and sometimes those can be a little bit off. They're a little bit separate than the normal part of the nervous system. It's the only part of the nervous system that can function even if it's not connected to the brain or the central nervous system. So it's a very primal part of the nervous system. And wormwood helps to tone those up as well. Those is like a big mesh, like a spider web of nerves. And it helps with that, but also if there is any potential for like a parasite of some sort that maybe she got exposed to.
She does have parasites.
Yeah, the wormwood would knock that out.
Right.
Just knock it out. Yeah.
Let me ask you, I have a parasite cleanse that has wormwood in it. Would that be okay, or should it just?
It's usually like wormwood, black walnut, and sometimes they add clove to it. Yeah. Yeah, that could work.
That could work. Okay. One question I have, you were talking about lymph stagnation, I'm sorry, the diaphragm. You said to use Hyssop and Sitka. Is it just topical?
Just inhale it. Just have her inhale it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can still do pH with it. Like you can still get up under the diaphragm and sweep it with green, sweep it with red, and just keep alternating. I know like normally it's not taught to sweep with red, but like it's actually in the advanced book with cleaning the physical heart, the heart muscle. You sweep with red, and sweeping with red does something about helping to loosen up the tissue and things like that. And so in cases like this, when you're trying to get something to release, you don't necessarily want to use orange, just because yeah, orange is very drying, and you want to release fascia here. So green is moistening and red is moistening. So you're using that to sweep the tissue, and that will actually release fascia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if for some reason that doesn't work, every once in a while, all these things don't work. There's still further steps to do, but this usually knocks it out. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're so welcome. But if you need something, let us know. Email us or something. And yeah, especially if she's had it chronic like that, it's most likely it's a parasympathetic issue, like she's lacked tone there. And it's like as much as you treat the symptom, the issue is the lack of tone in the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. You could treat the symptom all day long, but that's the byproduct of loss of tone in the parasympathetic nervous system. And, I would say even wormwood helps to tone the parasympathetic nervous system to the point where sometimes when people think they have parasites, I think it's actually that they just have poor tone in the parasympathetic nervous system. The treatment can be the same, like wormwood and clove and all that can be still very helpful, but tarragon can be very good for nausea and for a little bit of vomiting and a little like diarrhea and things, just because it really unwinds the stress in a stress-plagued digestive tract. And the combination, usually with chronic diarrhea, you can't just go to one thing. You usually have to kind of hit like multiple facets, but this should knock it out. I've treated people that have had diarrhea for 15 years, and within a couple of treatments, they're usually done.
One of the questions about the vagal nerve, would it help at all to like rub some oils behind the ears and down the neck? Or
I tried with placements and things with the different oils, and it kind of didn't matter. Like I really thought, because the vagus nerve comes out from the medulla on the back of your head. And so I did a thing where for a little while I was like, well, if I put marjoram up here or there or whatever, some of the different things, it didn't matter. You could put it on the wrist, you could put it, like if they have stiff neck and shoulders, multitask with it. But inhaling it, there was one person that like every time she would get stressed out, she would get diarrhea, and then it would last for several weeks, and the normal treatments weren't working. And so I just had her inhale marjoram. I didn't even have her do tarragon, and within a day or so she'd say it would go away. And then when she gets stressed out again, it would happen again. And I was like, just start inhaling the marjoram. And again, it pulls them out of fight flight. Because if you think of what fight flight is, you're preparing to either fight or to run, right? I know there's also a freeze component, but a big component of it is to either fight or to run. So your body, to prepare for the fighting or the running, empties the bowels and empties out the bladder, so you can run better or fight better. So when a person is lacking tone and parasympathetic activity, and then the sympathetic part of the nervous system or the fight flight mechanism is like highly active, you start having to urinate more frequently. You have to empty out your bowels quicker. You start to have diarrhea because you're not getting to digest things. Your body's just trying to let it go to prepare for the running or the fighting. And even though there's not something for her to run from or fight from, but the thing is they might not even have anything stressful going on. It's the lack of tone in the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic part of the nervous system that slides that person into the sympathetic activity. So they might not even have stress, but it lost tone. And so that system becomes highly overactivated because they balance each other. And so if it doesn't have tone, the other one just keeps going further and further to the extreme. And so you just got to balance out the rest and repair part.
I see. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you
I
so
don't know
much.
if you ever took the sleep class, but like in one of the early phases of the sleep class, we did a thing where we had people inhale with tarragon through a couple of protocols to go through and do it. And so for one, it helps you to kind of rest and relax, and it's antispasmodic and it's soothing. But part of the issue was when you tone the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, you're preparing the body to eat, you're preparing the body for rest, you're preparing the body for repair mode. And so you're shifting that body into that rest and repair component of it. And so that's why tarragon was used for that. And it improves the quality of sleep, it improves digestion, it does all these things, but because of what it does to the nervous system.
Very good. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
You're so welcome.
And go ahead, Christy, then Deborah.
Hey, Miss Christy.
Hey there, how are you all?
I'm doing good.
I have some questions about the black cumin. I just ordered another bottle of it because I started
Mhm.
using it again for some inflammation issues. I usually always just did it like once a day. Would it be okay to do it numerous times a day?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
like 2 to 3 times.
And you
a
can
day.
do a bigger dosage than what I say.
Okay.
Like sometimes like if my body gets like super inflamed or something, I'll hit 6-8 drops 2 or 3 times a day and like do it for a few days until I feel substantially better. I mean, I'd much rather do that than like an ibuprofen or something like that. And so the byproduct is that it might I've never had this, but I've had a couple of people say like they, because you are stepping up your rest and repair mode, like we were just talking about. And so they said like, I don't feel like doing a whole lot during the day, because you're going into repair mode. And so like if you step up the dosage, just look at like, am I just wanting to sit on the couch, or because it's not really a sedative, but it is making the nervous system shift. And I wouldn't use it just to tone up the parasympathetic activity, like we were just talking with that situation before. Like this is more specific to inflammation and the inflammatory response and things like that. And so you can bump the dosage up, and like when somebody has like a pretty bad break or something, I usually have them do like 6-8 drops, like 2-3 times a day.
Okay, and
Yeah.
your black cumin seed, because I had some other that I bought a long time ago, and it looked like it was like a CO2. Like what is the difference in yours?
Oh, they're both CO2s. Like I've had, they're just different sources. Like
Okay.
I get one out of Germany, and I get another one out of where do I get that other one out of? I want to say England or something, but it's sometimes like if one's just going to take longer to get, I go to the other one. I mean, they're both solid. They're both consistency, like the way they look, like when I pour them, they look a little tiny bit different, but therapeutically I can't tell the difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not aware of there being a steam distilled black cumin. There is regular cumin, but not black.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Deborah, then Chris.
Hey, Deborah.
Hey, Greg. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I have started to have questions about like some of the archangels,
Mhm.
and specifically Raphael.
Mhm.
I've got oils for several of them from your classes.
Mhm.
And I was curious to reach out to them to be guided to connect with them.
Mhm.
Is that what those oils are for?
What are you trying to do with it?
To connect,
With the
With-
angel.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, you could use it for that. You could use it for that. And keep in mind, like Raphael is considered the healer. And so it's associated with transmutation, transmutation in the body. And so anytime you're invoking Raphael, even if you're not using the oil, there is a little bit of engaging this transmutation process. And so it also is associated with planet Mercury, right? And so Mercury has to do with communication, but it also has to do with like how the two sides of your brain communicate, like the left side and the right side. And then how we communicate from the inner world to the outer world and vice versa, right? So there's these different kind of crossing these communication barriers, you could say. And so all of that is still tied to transmutation. You know, for you to be able to have those two sides of your brain a little bit more harmonized, where you're able to access a bit of the right side of the brain, there is transmutation of like the lower centers is like how you would get there. And so if you think about it, like in the early stages, like when somebody says like, oh, that person's awakened or whatever, the early stage is actually the awakening of the intuitive side of the mind. And part of that is tied to the transmutation of the lower nature. Without the transmutation of the lower nature, it's really hard to tap into the intuitive side, because the lower nature is very like the everyday mind, you know, the sensory mind. It's living by the senses, it's living by reactions, it's living by instinctual responses, it's living by lower emotions and how to process it and all these things. And so the act of going through and transmuting some of these things, you know, starts to allow for the two sides of the brain to work a little bit more harmoniously, but it starts to kind of kick in more of the intuitive side of the mind. And you know, when we do like the Lama Yoga breath, or we do the materialization breath, which they're the same, it's just the materialization breath has the throat lock, right? So you know that breath. You're actually still even doing something similar with that. You're moving energy from the lower centers, you're activating the things that are higher, but in that breath, either version of it, in that breath, you are stimulating the intuitive side of the mind, because like especially with the materialization breath, you're materializing light. And so for light to be able to come in, that intuitive side has to be a bit activated. Like light doesn't come in the left side of our brain. It doesn't come in through the sensory mind. It comes in more through the intuitive mind, and then starts to work its way down, you know, through the abstract mind, and then the lower mind, and then eventually even the instinctive mind. And so by going through and working with the Archangel Raphael blends, you're doing that. But to augment that, you could think of Raphael with your awareness on the heart, and then inhale, and then do the materialization breath with the blend. So you're getting kind of a twofer with that, you know, two things with one set of effort, or one grouping of effort. I don't know how to say that. You know, one effort unit.
I like that. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I understood the transmuting of the lower self. I mean, I understand the concept, but
Yeah, so the lower self would be actually, like, if you look at it from an energetic point of view, it's the lower chakras. So it's like your navel, your sex chakra, your basic, the Ming Men, the spleen. but it's tied to the body. Like it's tied to the physiological drives of the body, the drive for survival, the drive to establish yourself and thrive in the environment. And so, which is still necessary. It's like we don't want to shut it down, but we want to temper some of those things so that lower emotions eventually turn into higher emotions, and the instinctive mind eventually turns into the intuitive mind. And so we have these like lower drives that are more survival oriented, that as one kind of grows, you're tempering those things. Like you could say, like in a way, vanquishing, but vanquishing means like having mastery over it. Like you know, like even if you get a little triggered, you're like, okay, I'm triggered, but it's also not real, and it's about something in the past, and I'm gonna let it pass. You know.
So Greg,
Mhm.
I'm when I go to meditate,
Mhm.
I see green, and I'm
Mhm.
being led to believe that that is some sort of connection with Archangel Raphael. And so I wanted to explore that connection more. And do you think
How
that
are you seeing the green? I'm just curious. You just see green in front of your eyes, or you feel like you're floating in green, or
well, I seem to sense things differently from a lot of my peers.
Mhm.
So it's really yeah, it is in front of my eyes, but
Okay.
I'm the floating sensation is only starting recently that I have that, but I really, it's the green is intense, and then the images start appearing in my head.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, regardless or not, working with Raphael is amazing. I would say, like the things going on in the world today, or in the US or whatever, with all the things you read in the news, Raphael is definitely one of the remedies. So, um,
I could just work with that one oil and do the
mhm,
materialization breath on a maybe on a lots of repetitions,
mhm.
and that itself I should start to see some changes. Do you think?
Changes in what?
Um, maybe the experience that I'm having with this.
Um, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I would think so, but like it's a little bit harder to predict with the working with the angels and the archangels. You know, it does impact your physiology, but it's not as specific as like treating a symptom or trying to do a desired result. You're really like helping your physiology like evolve, like be more easily tempered and things. And so in theory something should start to happen, but it's a little bit different working with angelical energies than it is like with working like with something that we use for like a sore shoulder or something. And so in theory possibly, and even probably, but um you know, hard to say. You know, the thing is, like, you know, going back to the way you say you see things is um a lot of times we see things more metaphorically than like literally. I mean, some people still see things very literally, but sometimes it's a metaphor. And so yeah, it could mean healing. Green in theory is associated with the heart, although the heart doesn't produce a green. You know, could be associated with an element. It could be, you know, in the four directions, it's the west. I mean, there's different reasons. There's even deities that you do devotional practices to that you would have uh you know, flashes of green. And so I'm not sure why the green is there, but it's a nice color. Like it's it's very healing. It breaks up stagnant energy and helps to refine energy, and that's why it's tied to transmutation. Is it breaks down heavier, thicker. I started to say thicker energy to make it more refined so that it circulates in the body more and you're able to expel things off better. And so, I mean, I would explore it, especially working with angels. Like I always like to take the approach of let's explore it, but let's not have an expectation of what's going to happen. And there's some things that are kind of consistent that happen, and there are some things that are different from person to person. And so for you, I'm not sure where this one falls, but I would definitely explore it. I mean, green's the color of Raphael, green's the color of Mercury. Like, I mean, right? Green's Mercury, right? I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I would explore it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you think of anything else, thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, I think that's a good place to start. Like I'd
Yeah.
play with it and see where it goes.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Thanks
You're
so
so
much.
welcome.
And then go ahead, Chris, then Barbara.
Hey, Miss Chris.
Hey, Greg. Thanks, Sam. Hey, I did that the Nayuli that you asked me to put on my ear because it was inflamed the last time you looked at it.
Mhm.
I'm not a lot of discomfort, maybe a tiny bit. Do you mind checking if I need to get
She cut out. I didn't understand what she said.
So she put the Naioli on behind her because remember she was having, and she wants you to look and see how bad it is.
Is it feeling better or not? Or
It's feeling better. Yes. Sometimes it kind of twinges, but not sure what that
is it just the one ear or is it?
It's worse on the left ear. When you looked at it, it was both inflamed.
Yeah.
So I started doing the Nayuli and then taking lemon in my water.
And the Naoli you were just doing topically?
Yes. Does it look like the inflammation has gone down?
There's still inflammation there, but it's diminished somewhat.
Oh, okay. So just keep doing.
I would keep doing it. I would even like bump it up and take a little bit of the Naoli internally. Like I would,
okay.
yeah. And you know what else I would do is like, you're putting a little bit of behind the ear. Do like maybe one big dosage where you put like 12 or 15 drops in with a little bit of lotion and then just rub it all over your neck and shoulder and like maybe go to bed or something and or have your husband rub it on your back or something and get like a big dosage of that in you and see what happens with that. I mean,
Okay.
it's definitely moving in the right direction, but don't always want to be super patient. Like I want to be patient, but not too patient. Like, because sometimes you just need to like step up the dosage or be a little more aggressive. And so I would just be a little bit more aggressive with it.
Okay, perfect. I just got my supply today, so.
Oh, good.
Perfect timing.
Hey, we'll see you in a couple of days.
I know, so excited. One more question, please.
Sure, fire away.
I have a client who works at the courthouse and he goes back and forth between the jail and the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
What's a good way to like an energy hygiene that he can do before entering the house or leaving work? Because I notice he carries a lot of this in the home.
Either health rays or
Health rays. Okay.
Yeah, or
Spray. Make a spray.
If he could inhale it, it would be better. But if he's not going to do that, then rue, like rue. Yeah, like have him just inhale rue, spray rue, whatever it is, rue.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. My experience is like when guys are like guards or probation officers or something like that, they have so much projected at them that their aura and health rays are super congested. And so it's just a way to, the room will cut the cords and reduce conflict and a little bit of psychic attack stuff that gets projected at them, but still there's a congestion component that you want to kind of unwind. And sometimes even just doing like general sweeping or doing the 7 layers like we do in the Sound of Fun class, even that isn't as effective because the health rays are so congested. Like, so just really unwind the health rays, just really unwind them.
Got it. And then the first time he came for healing, he had a lot of stored emotion, anger and resentment in his shoulder. And then the whole time he was getting healing, he says, oh, my thoughts were just going back and further and further in my childhood. What kind of oil should I use when that happens, for when they're inhaling?
Because they're going back to, were they traumatic things or just?
Yeah, it's just like a movie playing in front of in their head, during the healing. It's probably, I'm not sure what's happening, but it's probably getting released.
I would use a couple of oils there. I would use either a Lemmy or I would use Cape Snowbush.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lemmy, just to inhale, right?
Yeah,
Lemmy.
like he could put a few drops on if he wants to, but he could just get away with inhaling. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Greg.
You're so welcome.
See you soon.
The thing that happens like when you're having those memories, we're actually going to be talking about that this weekend, ironically.
Oh, perfect.
And yeah, and we're going to do a very involved thing, but like kind of an easy, quick thing is going to be taught in the class as well. But part of like sometimes when people have like anxiety or anger or something, like you could say there's like a disconnect between the body and the mind, and there's like a lack of awareness in that area. Not that they're like avoiding it, but it's just like their like consciousness can't like penetrate that, whatever it is, fill in the blank. And so the thing with a Lemmy and the thing with Cape Snowbush is it helps like reestablish like that connection so that it's like easier to be processed. And it's not the complete remedy, but for the general public, sometimes that's all that they need. For somebody who has been doing meditation or healing or a lot of prayer work, like their level of awareness is greater, they're more sensitive, and so sometimes it needs like stronger versions of that. But the Lemmy and the Cape Snowbush, well, the other one that you could throw in there is cypress. Like not cypress wood, not Nootka, just like good old-fashioned plain cypress. And those are the 3 go-to things that kind of do that. Yeah, it's like it just helps to connect in that particular area, so that like any time that's disconnected, think of it like this, is it starts to lack light. And when that starts to happen, it starts to cause like repetition and eventually repetition compulsion, which it's not a conscious choice. But what happens is at first it's just a thing that's repeating in the body, it's repeating in their mind. Then repetitive compulsion is, then it starts to repeat like in the environment or in behaviors and things like that. And so you want to diminish the tendency for repetition compulsion. Like, somebody screwed me over or da 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 da. And if you have repetitive compulsion, then it's like, so I'm going to go out and recreate situations where people can screw me over. Like, that's literally the definition of repetition compulsion. And so people don't do that consciously. It is an automatic behavior, but it's automatic behaviors are there because they're drives of the body, but they lack light. Like, because if you had light in it, you would be like more aware, more present, you would be more cognitive. And so your body has these mechanisms that help you survive in crisis situations. But what happens is they get triggered in non-crisis oriented situations, like it is a crisis. But when you have automatic behavior or automatic thinking, you're not getting to process information. You're just reacting. And so it takes the reaction out, because if you look at like what is anger, what is anxiety, it is a reaction without a process. Does that make sense?
Yes, it.
And we're going to be talking about all that stuff this weekend.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much,
You're
Greg.
so welcome.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you. Thank you.
No delays.
We'll see you in a few days. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
And then go ahead, Barbara, then Denise.
Hey, Barbara.
Hey there.
Hey, hey.
You touched on something a bit ago that I'm wondering if you would be willing to spend some time on, but
Sure.
you were talking about different levels of mind, and I'm envisioning like you describing it like a flow chart.
Sure.
Intuitive mind and constructive
Yeah,
mind.
so you have like the instinctive mind that then eventually turns into so instinctive mind just means like reacting but with not really processing anything, right? Then you have the lower mind, which the lower mind is like your critical thinking. Like you see everything like in details, but everything is like very separate, like you see things like in like almost like in boxes, but you don't see how they connect to each thing, but this is still an important part of thinking. Like you go through and you're doing your checkbook or reading instructions, putting together a bookshelf, you're doing critical thinking. It's an important thing of everyday life. And then you have abstract thinking, which is your ability to process new or abstract information, which means abstract just means not like physicalized, or not like there's a thought process that you can go, oh, I know what this is, or you know what I mean. You usually don't have past experience with it. And so in this particular phase, you have more potential for strategic thinking, and you have more potential for being aware of the consequences of your actions. Like critical thinking is not aware of consequences, or if it is, it's like, this happened to me before, and if I do it again, this is going to happen again. Where abstract thinking is, if I do this, the potential is that this might happen or that might happen, or it's not based on past experiences. It's like you can almost see like how it's going to play out. And so it's part of strategic thinking. And then you have, well, let me say one more thing about abstract thinking. Think of abstract thinking as processed wisdom. Like, wisdom is like kind of a flash of insight. Abstract thinking is you've processed that flash and now you can use it for something. Where the flash of insight is interesting, you have a realization, but you don't really know like what it means or how to apply it, right? Abstract thinking, which is tied to the ajna, that is you've processed that, and then you can go, what I can do with this is like, somebody who has a developed ajna, you can present them with new information. They go, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, and I could do this. Like, they're processing it and already applying it, right? And so even our communication to a certain extent comes more from the ajna than it does from the throat. Because this is energy of thought. This is like what you think and what you say. Like it's both of them, but a lot of it comes more from here. And then and the intuitive mind is less about like the physical, because it's going beyond the senses. So it can be a little bit more ethereal. It could be more about ideas or concepts, but doesn't really apply it very well. Like sometimes, haven't you ever met somebody who like they're really good at having good ideas, but they don't get anything ever done? It's usually big forehead, no ajna. If you look at them, like they'll even when they're little kids, in a little kid, they tend to daydream a lot. It's they're very aware of their surroundings, but they can't focus. And so the intuitive mind is tied more to certain processes in the brain, but it also is tied to how you process information from the higher soul or the Buddha nature. And then as that plays out, like the higher mind comes in, with the big M, kind of settles in and changes the dynamics of all of it. But the class, not this weekend, but the one at the end of the month, we're going through the 4 stages of bliss, and it's like mechanically looking out like how you process information with your mind, and like the cultivation of the positive, or like when it's regulated, or I don't even know what to say, like not regulated, but when it's not being so impacted by conditioning, it starts to become easier and easier to experience and process the divine or spirit, rather than just having all the sensory impulse information driving all aspects of the mind. It's always present, but we get so ingrained in normal everyday life that we kind of lose touch with it a little bit. It's very Buddhist, the one that we're going to be doing at the end of the month. I actually thought of you when I was doing it, because I was like, this is right up your alley with the stuff you study.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
So instinctive mind and lower mind, are those both throat?
No, instinct is actually your navel.
Navel.
Yeah. So not really your mind, but that's why, like when you meditate and you do mudras and you store energy in the navel, part of it is your changing your instinctual responses. It's tied more to conditioning, and it's more of the automatic behavior, automatic thinking. Like it's, the simplified form of that would be like somebody picks up a tennis ball and throws it at your head. You don't really think about it. You just move your head out, and then you process it after the fact, right? So the issue is that, even when we've been meditating for a while, that mechanism is always in play. You can change it and whatever, but most times we kind of wrestle with it, when really what we want to do is like harness it. You might be able to clean it up, you might be able to temper it, but the whole thing where we do like, okay, have an experience, and then let's step back and process and talk about what just happened. You are working with that mechanism rather than against it. Like, because you, like, going back to the tennis ball being thrown at your head, you have the experience of like, oh, I need to move my head. And then afterwards you go, why'd you throw the ball at my head? You don't do it before, you do it after, right? So the issue is, when this becomes very overactivated, what happens is that part of the mind is always like, it's like a guard dog that's in the backyard. It's just always barking at anything that's moving, right? And so we get used to just like, okay, this is how we're going to process information in the external world. So we're just looking for conflict, we're looking for problems, we're looking for potential pain situations, and just putting out the fires or avoiding it or whatever. And it never really allows for the other parts of the mind to develop like they should, because that one's always the barking dog, you know. And so by going through and kind of shifting and changing it, it changes how you process information and stimuli from the environment, and allows for like divine to come in, or bliss to come in, or deeper emotional states. Like, because the deeper emotional states are not like emotions like how we experience emotions, you know. They're I've never been able to come up with good words for it, but it's a state, and it's it's almost like you're sitting in a movement. Like there's movement and stillness all at the same time. You know, it's like things that would seem like normally polarized and opposite are the same thing. You're experiencing them both, just like you can experience focus and awareness at the same time. After some development, you can stay very focused but still be very aware of the environment, where for the normal person, if they're focused, they're not aware. If they're aware, they're not focused, right? And then as you develop that and oneness, I believe the term in Hindu is samayama, where you are able to have oneness, focus, and awareness all at the same time. And so those deeper emotional states, things that are normally polarized are not polarized. Like they're very middle ground. They're very Buddhist. You know, not all the traditions talk about it like in the outer teachings. I mean, Buddhism does somewhat, and Native Americans do somewhat, but it's usually an inner teaching.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, you're so. Did that kind of answer your question?
It did.
Yeah.
And the process wisdom piece, is that forehead? Or is that
Process wisdom is the ajna.
that's also the
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I love that term, like processed wisdom, you know.
Yeah.
It's like you get the flash, but then like, what do you do with the flash? Like here it comes down as, you know, you've processed the flash. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Just to make sure, kind of accurate. Instinctive mind, navel; lower mind, throat; abstract mind, ajna; intuitive mind, forehead;
Mm-hmm.
higher mind,
Crown.
crown. And then go ahead, Denise, and then Troy.
Hey, Denise.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm going to miss you guys. It sounds like it's going to be a great class on Saturday. I'll have to catch up though this year for sure on something. You know, I didn't bring up, but in the fall I had a vitreous detachment in my left eye. And that's the same side I had the most surgery on, and just a lot happened on that left side of my face. Okay. It's changed. Plus, earlier in my life, I've had several head injuries, and one big one off to that left side. Okay. So it's been kind of challenging to reprocess certain things and to hold a focus really long, and especially with UV light, then the floaters kind of start. So I don't know if you can help at anything there, but anxiety makes it worse. So I do have cypress, but you've also said tarragon would be good because I kind of still have a bit of that shock from.
I would do tarragon. Like cypress isn't so much for anxiety, but it's for like the disconnect. And so I would probably do tarragon, like for the anxiety, like tarragon, spikenard, valerian. Even Palo Santo sometimes could be a good thing to use. In extreme cases, I actually will have people use Melissa. I don't throw that one out right off the bat because it's a bit more pricey, and if we can make it work with some of the other things, I always like to prefer to do that. But Melissa is kind of the go-to thing for some of the anxieties and things like that, and it's kind of calming to the physical heart and calming to the nervous system and things like that. But
Melissa is? You said Melissa?
Melissa is, yeah, Melissa.
Maybe, well, maybe I should have you guys do the tarragon and the Melissa for me this time, just simply because I'd like to settle my body down a little
Okay.
bit.
And what we can do is we can do a little tiny bottle of Melissa just to make sure that it works for you, rather than like, the big 5 ml bottle. And I mean, it's always good to have, but like in my little travel kit, one of the things I always travel with is Melissa. And it helps me sleep. But like if, like sometimes you just get wound up, like you have a bunch of goals or deadlines, or for me, it's like, travel, got to get to the airport, got to do this, got to do that. And then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, now hurry up and relax.
Yeah.
And then get up in the morning. And sometimes I have a hard time winding down. And
I do have spikenard and I have Palo Santo, but
yeah,
I'll get
try
the tarragon.
those. Yeah, try those. And but Melissa's the thing that pulls me out of it.
Okay.
And
So
so
how to use them, tarragon and Melissa, and actually any of them.
I would take them internal. Like I
internal.
mean, yeah, I would take them both internal. I mean, the tarragon you could inhale quite a bit. Same with Melissa, but when I'm really feeling a little funk there with stuff like that, I take a few drops and take it internally.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I think. If we can just keep it simple, but get my body and myself calmed down a bit, then we can do more work, Would that be good?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Do you have any other suggestions?
For the anxiety, I mean, certain times, like things like Ambret or something can be something used, but I'm not getting that hit with you. I would stick with like the things that we just talked about. I mean, spikenard a lot of times will not knock it out. Valerian and spikenard are real similar chemically. So if one works, the other one would work, and if it doesn't work, the other one probably is not going to work, that kind of thing. Vetiver, vetiver is relaxing, but it's like if you're feeling a little ungrounded, vetiver would be the one to use. But tarragon I like just because it tones the vagus nerve and parasympathetic activity. It's very calming. It's very soothing. It's good for the gut. It's good for so many things. It's antispasmodic. It decreases some body tension. Even marjoram could be thrown into that circle a little bit. But
and I do love marjoram. I do love that.
I would just keep working those a little bit, but tarragon, and if you're still needing a little something, then maybe we do a little sample, a little 2 ml bottle of Melissa. And if it works, you can always go bigger. But what's that?
Oh, for sure, I'll order both those tonight. Those are both there. That's anything to help me focus a little, or will I just start to focus maybe a little better?
That actually might help you focus. Things that always help with focus can be like rosemary, basil, peppermint, things like that. But if those things are agitated, it's going to be hard to focus. So I mean, you might be able to knock it out with even what we've already talked about.
Excellent. And when I do, because I am about ready to order some rosemary, which one?
For what we're talking about, I'd get rosemary verbena.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sam.
And then go ahead, Troy.
Hey, Mr. Troy.
Let's get you unmuted. You might be talking. There you go.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. Hey, I was just noticing a blend that I ordered some time ago, cortisol reg
Oh, yeah.
regulation or something.
Mhm.
Taken internally?
Yeah, I mean, you could use it topically, but it's going to work 10 times better internally. Yeah.
Okay, and how would you recommend using it?
You could use it in the morning, but I would probably do it at night because I think could improve the sleep a little bit, and it would help you shake off the stress hormones and everything from the day in the evening. So I would probably do it in the evening.
Okay, just take a couple drops in the water.
Like I mean, honestly, I'd probably do like 4 or 5 drops, and then and then shoot it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
All right. Thanks a lot.
I think there was something earlier. Again, if you guys want to raise your hand, unmute yourself, have a question. I'm also going to go back to the chat here, make sure I didn't miss anything here from you guys.
We're good. Okay, so we're gonna jump in and start doing a bit of a protocol, and who knows, maybe we even do 2. So I still want to kind of go down the road a little bit with the immunity. And one of the things that we did a few weeks ago, and then I think we just talked about it, we really didn't practice, was to unwind the spine a bit. Actually, let's do that one first. We're going to do them both. So to unwind the spine, any time that you have subluxation, like when a bone moves side to side, you're starting to throw off the immune system just by the misalignment. And most times what you're throwing off is lymphatic function, right? And then if one of the bones slides forward, which doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen, it actually starts to cause an autoimmune response. And so your spinal health is really kind of key to your immunity as well. And so one of the things that we're going to do here is, if you have Hyssop, let's have you use Hyssop. If not, you can use a eucalyptus, or if you don't have that, let's have you use marjoram. So we're going to do something, and this is going to make you expel a little bit energetically. So you are going to throw some energy off. So let's have you just check in with how you feel. Move your body around, move your head, your neck, twist your back a little bit. This isn't so much a treatment for like a spinal issue as it is to just unwind the spine as it impacts your immunity. The other one that you could use for this is also poplar balsam. And notice how you feel, and begin inhaling. And let's just have you right off the bat inhale with your awareness on the bottom of your throat. Your awareness is on the bottom of your throat. And then go to your back throat, like the middle of the back of your neck. And just from there, slip into the bones in your neck, the cervical spine. You're still inhaling. Your awareness is on the cervical spine. And then move to the upper back, the area between your shoulder blades, but really focus in on the spine itself, between the shoulder blades. You're still on the upper back. You're still taking some long, slow, deep breaths. Go to your mid back, the mid spine. Long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the spine, mid spine.
My apologies, guys, got the camera. Let me just reset it. Still just listen to Greg's voice and follow along.
And then go to your low spine, The lumbar area. It's working and then it just stopped. But the next part, one's just my iPad. Now, explore you've done your whole spine. Explore what spots just really jumped out at you. Go to whatever spot really jumped out. Put your awareness on that area and inhale. And then just be still. Just let everything go for a moment. Just be still. Not working now. Check in with your body. With everything that you just did, where do you feel it in your body? You feel it in your back, your shoulders, your jaw, your legs, up in your head, down in your feet. Wherever you feel it, just keep your awareness on that spot. And with your awareness on the spot, start inhaling that same oil into that area. Keep inhaling into that area. And then just be still and let go. Let go of everything, just let go. Begin inhaling again. Again, the bones in your neck, the cervical spine. The area between your shoulder blades, the upper spine. Mid spine. Concentrate on the bones in your spine in the mid back area. And then the bones of your low back, the lumbar spine, the bottom part of your spine. And then just be still. Let everything go. Just be still. Just check in with your spine. Is there a spot that you really feel some tension or a little bit of like a glitch or stuck energy? Doesn't necessarily have to be like where something's out of place, but just something's a little stuck, like it feels a little heavy. Or put your attention on one of those spots in your spine and begin inhaling. And then just let go. Just let go. Check in with your body. Where do you feel it in your body? Is there any tension in a spot? A little bit of heaviness? A little bit of an ache or pain? Wherever you're feeling something, like the one that really is jumping out at you most, put your awareness on that spot and go ahead and begin inhaling. Keep inhaling into that spot. And the way that I always like to end up with this is now take it up to your temples. Put your awareness up on the temples. And just continue to inhale with your awareness on the temples.